Donald Trump is losing it, and he has ordered his Department of Justice to redact his face from photos of him in the Epstein files. We clearly can tell that this is Donald Trump in this photo right here, in a text message between Steve Bannon and Jeffrey Epstein when they're talking about Jair Bolsonaro, the leader of Brazil, attending his inauguration wearing a colostomy bag. You see this photo of Donald Trump. Obviously, Trump is the person in this photo, but the Trump DOJ redacted his face, but they did it in such a way that is so sloppy that it's obvious it's him. And we know that the Epstein files that were produced on Friday, while it includes a ton of bombshells, is only a partial production. The Department of Justice released 3 million documents, but we believe there's at least 3 million more documents that have not been released, by the way, by the Department of Justice's own admission. But what they don't say is that could actually total about 50 million pages if those documents include multiple pages, as we've seen before. So there is a massive cover-up still taking place, and we believe the most devastating documents have not been produced yet. But wow, some of the documents produced are devastating. They're toppling world leaders who are referenced in the Epstein files, but the Trump cabal continues to claim they're vindicated, despite the fact that Donald Trump is referenced over 5,000 times in the Epstein files that were produced on Friday in some of the most disgusting, grotesque, and vile ways imaginable. And I've been covering it here on the MeidasTouch Network. Go back and watch those videos, because the things it says about Donald Trump are disgusting. But you have Lord Mandelson from the United Kingdom, who used to be the UK ambassador to the United States. He resigned as the ambassador to the United States when the Epstein estate released photos and documents that included him a few months back. He's now fully resigning from the Labour Party over the Epstein files, latest tranche produced by the DOJ on Friday, because he's referenced in some really grotesque ways. There's photos of him in his underwear. It's gross. Also, you have gross is an understatement. Let's just be very clear. You have Slovakia's prime minister's national security advisor resigning over Epstein links. There's multiple communications there talking about girls. And one of the revelations as well is the amount of communications Epstein's claimed that he was having with Vladimir Putin. There's over 1,000 references in the Epstein files to Putin, and Epstein speaks to people like former Israeli Prime Minister Ehud Barak. He speaks with the former Prime Minister of Norway. He speaks to leaders in the United Arab Emirates and others about having meetings with Putin and conveying and shuffling information back and forth with Putin, such that you had a Daily Mail and Telegraph report over the weekend say that Epstein's sex empire was entirely a KGB honey trap. I'm going to go and do a whole video on that this morning, so I want you to watch that if you can. But I'll just read for you this email right now, dated May 22nd, 2013. It's an email from Jeffrey Epstein to Ehud Barak, the former Prime Minister of Israel. And Epstein says, Putin asked that I meet with him in St. Petersburg the same time as his economic conference. I told him no. If he wants to meet, he will need to set aside real time and privacy. Let's see what happens. And there's a lot more messages like that talk about meetings. I want to talk about domestic affairs, though, right now in the United States, because as Trump is losing it over the release of the Epstein files, he's redacting his face from photos. He's all over these files. Elon Musk is all over the files. Peter Thiel is mentioned repeatedly. You have people like Howard Lutnick named repeatedly. I want to talk about the American people who are suffering right now, because you have right now, based on the latest consumer confidence reports, the worst economic record of any president since 1960 at this point. I mean, take a look right here. Americans right now feel the economy is devastatingly harmful to them. And that's because it is. People feel the way it is, not the gaslighting from Donald Trump and his regime. I know that Donald Trump, is more focused on doing deals with the United Arab Emirates. By the way, the UAE leaders are all over the Epstein files, having communications with Epstein. I know that Donald Trump's more focused on bringing money into his family, and he's more focused on golden arches and golden ballrooms and shutting down the Kennedy Center and destroying the treasure that was the Kennedy Center. But the American people are suffering right now. I mean, just think about what we learned in the past 24 hours. Some great reporting over here from the Wall Street Journal talked about how 4 days before Trump's inauguration, lieutenants to an Abu Dhabi royal secretly signed a deal with the Trump family to buy a 49% stake in World Liberty Financial for $500 million, according to documents and people familiar. The buyer paid half up front, steering $170 million to Trump family entities and $31 million to Steve Witkoff entities. The investment was backed by the UAE National Security Advisor, Tahnoun bin Zayed. And if you look at who's a part of World Liberty Financial, it's the Witkoffs, it's the Trumps who enrich themselves. And by the way, World Liberty Financial did not really even have any product at all. They had like a digital token, but the money that was paid by the UAE didn't even give them access to the digital token. But what they did get, and what appears to be a quid pro quo, is access to the most classified semiconductor chips in the United States that every prior administration deemed not only a national security risk if those chips got into the hands of a country like the UAE, because it would quickly then get to China, but something that would be absolutely catastrophic to our national security. But the Trump regime gave the UAE those semiconductor chips and all of our technology, highly classified stuff, after the UAE did that deal with Donald Trump. So utterly pathetic. But look, Donald Trump's been posting more about the arch that he wants to build. He wants it 250 feet tall. It would block the Lincoln Memorial. It would be kind of right in that location in the Washington Mall, blocking the Lincoln Memorial. Donald Trump was also ranting and raving about the Kennedy Center all day. He was making posts like the following: the former leadership of the Kennedy Center created a broken budget and failed this great institution. $100 million operating deficits, $26 million bottom line deficits. Under Donald Trump, we have a balanced budget. A balanced budget of the Kennedy Center. And Donald Trump writes, people don't realize the Trump Kennedy Center suffered massive deficits for many years. And like everything else, I merely came in to save it. If possible, make it far better than ever before. President Donald J. Trump. So that's what he reposted earlier in the day. That was a message that he also wrote on January 26th. So Donald, how are you making it better? What are you doing to improve the Kennedy Center? Oh, on Sunday, Donald Trump announces that he's shutting it down. In this post right here, where he rants and raves like a lunatic, he said that in order to bring the Kennedy Center to its maximum grandeur, which he unlawfully calls the Trump Kennedy Center when there's no congressional approval for that, it's a memorial for former President Kennedy, and Trump plastered his name on it. But Trump says to improve its grandeur, Donald Trump says he's shutting it down for 2 years, and maybe he'll open it up sometime in the future. But what the reality is that all the staff from the Kennedy Center are resigning. Its executives are resigning. Trump got rid of the prior board, brought in a new board that's been absolutely horrible. All of the performers and musical acts started canceling their shows. People weren't showing up. It was empty and embarrassing. And so the Trump regime had to shut it down because it was becoming such an embarrassment. I want to fact check, though, what Donald Trump says, that the Kennedy Center was a failure before, or that it wasn't turning a profit. It's a nonprofit. The Kennedy Center is a nonprofit, so inherently, it doesn't need to make a profit, but it did have net income. Its revenue in 2024 was $266 million, and its revenue was $306 million. Its expenses were $266 million, so it had a net operating income of $40 million. So even though it was a nonprofit, it had net income of $40 million. So you're saying, did Donald Trump lie? Yeah, Donald Trump lies about everything. And so Donald Trump's view of making the Kennedy Center better is shutting it down and bankrupting it and taking away a national treasure from our country. So now it joins the list of other Trump failed businesses: Trump Steaks, Trump Vodka, Trump Board Games, Trump University, Trump Mattresses, Trump Ice, Trump Shuttle, Trump Vitamins and Urine Test Kits, Tour de Trump, New Jersey Generals, Trump Modeling, Trump Princess, Trump Mortgage, Trump Success Cologne, Trump Magazine, Trump Style, Trump Taj Mahal, Trump Plaza Hotel and Casino, Trump Castle, Trump Hotels and Casino Resorts, Trump Entertainment, Trump Marina, Trump Casino Indiana, Trump Travel Agency, Trump Net Telecom, Trump Tower Tampa, Trump Empire Cologne, Paris is Out musical, and now the United States of America. I don't know how somebody could look at someone who's destroyed all of those businesses and go, that's a smart businessman right there. And just take a look at this photo of Donald Trump standing in front. Senator Andy Kim says he's standing in front of his casinos in New Jersey that he destroyed. And Andy Kim goes, we here in New Jersey, because he's the United States Senator from New Jersey, we here in New Jersey know Trump's track record of crash and burn property management. We can't let him do this to the Kennedy Center, what he did to Atlantic City. And that's precisely what he's doing at the Kennedy Center and to our country right now and to our alliances. You had Kevin Hassett, Donald Trump's national economic advisor. He was doing the weekend shows and he kept on talking about we're reordering the world order. Listen to what he said.
And don't forget that when we were here in the spring of last year, everybody was saying that we're going to cause a global recession and so on. And President Trump just went really into the mouth of the beast. He went to Davos and he said, hey, not only is the U.S. booming with our growth north of 5%, but you guys are booming too, because when the U.S. booms, the world booms. And so we are reordering the world order, and it's going to end up being great for everybody. Now,
yeah, you are reordering the world order where America is the weakest right now. We've seen the European Union enter into what they refer to as the mother of all trade deals with India. You have China and Canada entering into a massive trade deal. And Trump's like, if they do that deal, Canada's going to lose ice hockey right now. Okay. You have Canada making deals with Europe. You have Europe making deals with South America, and the United States is cut out of all of this as Donald Trump's wayward, destructive, malicious, idiotic policies are crippling our country. Let's check in, though, with what MAGA Mike Johnson had to say over the weekend about the fact that Donald Trump's name is all over the Epstein files in the most grotesque and disgusting ways. This is Trump sycophant, the Speaker of the House right now, MAGA Mike Johnson. Here, play this clip.
President Trump's name appears throughout the Epstein files, including in many of the new documents released this week. Now, we want to stress appearing in the Epstein files does not amount to or imply criminal wrongdoing. But do you have any outstanding questions, given that, about the relationship between President Trump and Jeffrey Epstein?
I do not. I mean, I've spoken to the president about this privately and personally many times, and he's spoken very candidly and openly to the public. He says the same things privately that he does publicly. He's never had any concern about that. Remember, President Trump was one of the first people that called Epstein out. He kicked him out of Mar-a-Lago, off the property, because he heard of some of the nefarious things he was engaged in. He's never had any concern about that at all.
He did at one point call these files a Democratic hoax. But let me ask you about something.
Well, what he said specifically was the hoax of the Democrats trying to turn this into a political issue and use it against him.
And let's check in right now with Fox reporter Gaines. Let's see what she has to say about the state of our country. Here, play this clip.
Yeah, I believe that words like compassion and empathy and inclusion and love, they've been weaponized against us, especially us as women. Now, coming up.
Yeah, she goes, words like compassion, empathy, and inclusion have been weaponized against us. What the hell are these people talking about? And then you have Donald Trump's former criminal defense attorney, who's now the number 2 at the DOJ, Todd Blanche. He's been all over the press as Pam Bondi, Donald Trump's attorney general's too scared to show up in public right now. And you have Todd Blanche saying that when Donald Trump puts social media posts, those don't represent his priorities. Here, play this clip.
Well, you just actually made my point right there. You said it's the president's priorities. The president calls for them publicly to be prosecuted, says they're guilty as hell, and then they're prosecuted.
No, that's not the president's priorities. That's a truth that he sent out. The president's priorities are executing on making America safe again. And that's what we're doing. And so when we go to prosecutors and we say, you are going to do violent crime, you are going to do fraud cases out of Minnesota because that's a horrible thing that's happening there. If individual prosecutors say, no, I don't want to do that, they need to leave, and they do leave.
And then you have George Stephanopoulos examining Todd Blanche about Liam Ramos, the 5-year-old who was kidnapped by the Trump regime in Minneapolis. And take a look at this exchange. Let's play this clip.
I should say, to clarify, the lawyer for Liam Ramos and his father say they were following the legal process for asylum.
I mean, I don't know what that means. They were following legal process. So
they applied for asylum.
And yes, the judge disagreed with us. Excuse me?
They applied for asylum and they were going through the legal process.
Well, so that's not true. That is not true. There's a very meaningful dispute about whether they had properly applied for asylum. And again, I cannot get into the specifics of this litigation, but you can read the same briefs I can, and what you just said is not true.
Okay, that's what his lawyer says. So I'm sure they'll have a response to that as well. I also want to ask.
And as our friend Lee McGowan says, apparently Todd Blanche has attended the Mike Johnson I haven't seen it and I don't know what words mean school of lies. Now, MAGA Mike Johnson is also panicking as he's looking at the midterms where it looks like he's going to lose his job. We've been covering this a lot on the MeidasTouch network. There was that special election over the weekend in Texas State Senate District number 9, where a Democrat overperformed by plus 31 points, flipping a plus 17 Trump district to go plus 14 for Taylor Remitt. Big victory right there over the MAGA Republican candidate who was endorsed by Donald Trump. I'm going to do a whole other video this morning about Donald Trump panicking over that loss in Texas State Senate District 9 and how Texas is turning blue and how that was fueled by independents and Republicans voting for the Democratic candidate. Even Florida MAGA Governor Ron DeSantis posted on social media that what happened in Texas is a major warning sign, major red alert for MAGA Republicans heading into the midterms. So that's where we stand today. We'll keep you posted throughout this process. Of course, hit subscribe, help us get to 6 million subscribers, and we appreciate you so much.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to add the MeidasTouch podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts for new updates every single day.